Hi, this is my first live stream. I'm Dr. Millie. For those of you who do not know me, I am a licensed naturopathic doctor, and I've been practicing some degree of naturopathic medicine since 2007. I've practiced in Canada, in the US. I've studied public health in Germany, so I've studied global healthcare systems. And I wanted to come live today to discuss why I openly signed Dr. Mark Hyman's petition to nominate RFK Jr. as the health secretary. So, is anybody, really on the right side of the political spectrum anymore? I think it's all mixed up. And I'm not a political expert. I'm a practicing alternative physician, alternative medicine doctor, and I've worked in research, and I've certainly thought about healthcare systems and how they worked, and also observed the healthcare system both in Canada from the inside as well as a patient, of course, and also done the same observation of the U.S. healthcare system. I've been living in the U.S. for about 10 years. I lived in Germany for a year. I lived in Canada for about 35 years. And so I have worked in the system. I've worked in private clinics. I've worked virtually. As I mentioned, of course, I've been a patient in every country. And so I do have some observations and knowledge about how healthcare systems should work for the people. I was here when Obamacare came in. Obviously that came in very expensive and with a lot of complaints. However, having nationally recognized healthcare, mandatory healthcare, is what makes a population healthier. But there's other things that make a population healthier, and it's not just vaccines and condom usage, and screening. So the way that America and Canada, to that matter, the way that they go about health promotion and health prevention is solely down those tracks. So you've got your vaccine mandate, you've got your, behavioral health, very strong behavioral health mandate now, drug control, and you've got your, there's some level of nutrition, health promotion. Michelle Obama actually did a pretty good job bringing better nutrition into the schools. I don't have children, so I'm not exactly sure how all that's played out in every state. This is obviously a very large subject. But the reason that I signed this petition that Dr. Hyman put forward was because I trust him, and I believe that there needs to be change. The change that I think that there needs to be is more focus on nutrition, preventative strategies, integration of what the patient is doing at home, what we're all as citizens doing at home in order to keep ourselves healthy, in order to prevent chronic disease. Chronic disease is basically inevitable if you continue to consume high processed, ultra processed foods, if you continue to be sedentary, if you continue to smoke cigarettes and drink a high level of alcohol or do any other recreational or medical drugs. But chronic disease also gets expedited with too many medications, too many prescriptions, a diet low in nutritional value, and actually the information on the nutritional value of foods and what our requirements are, given our age, given our weight class, is incomplete. And how many how many Americans are actually suffering from nutrient insufficiencies or nutrient deficiencies, and how to compensate for those is incomplete. That information is being distributed incompletely. What else is being distributed insufficiently, incompletely? We're not receiving this information. We're not reaching Americans as to what they can do for their health. We're not really reaching them as to the individual diet, what type of diet they should eat for them, what types of foods might be triggers for them. In and above, the recommendation that we should eat whole foods, that we should eat, some version of a paleo or a whole foods diet, or, incorporate fasting and drink a certain number of water 8 cups of water, which is not even the national recommendation. And that's a point that's disagreed upon by dietitians and nutritionists. And so there's information that is available to the public that is not reaching mandate. And therefore, the population is being educated, I'll say incompletely. So we're not receiving all the information that's available that we could be distributing to help people deal with their symptoms at home and also improve the health over a lifetime, improve lifespan, focus on improving lifespan, which is focus on the number of years we live disease-free, not just the number of years we live. Now, we all know Western medicine does an amazing job at saving lives. The Western healthcare system does an amazing job at prolonging life when we're in the last 6 months of our life. And a lot of resources go towards that. But that is emergency medicine at the end of life. And that is not where many people disagree that that's where the majority of healthcare dollars should go. And many people agree, and studies show that it's cheaper for the American healthcare system to focus on prevention early and maintaining health and preventing chronic disease with methods that we know work, although complicated, although different for everybody. And we'd love to say, oh, personalized medicine is here and it's now and it's available. And if we're using genetics as a basis for personalized medicine, that is not necessarily the case. We are learning more all the time. But what we do know is that diet, exercise, sleep, stress management are big factors, and that we can get more into the weeds on this and make better recommendations for citizens of America and avoid certain foods that basically lead to chronic disease, especially if we're eating them regularly, routinely, over a long period of time. So the reason that I signed this petition was because pharmaceutical companies have been controlling the healthcare system for far too long. I worked in a mood disorder clinic. This is 20 years ago. And at that time, the closed door files of, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Prozac. So the dangers of those medications was kind of alerted the public, and was made known that there were these files that showed, potential psychosis when people, especially children or teenagers, are taking Prozac, and the harms, the rebound anxiety and depression of taking long-term antidepressants. And so the pharmaceutical industry, yes, they're doing research, they're doing a lot of good research, but they should not be the dominant lobby as far as what the FDA says is healthy and what the FDA says prevents disease and treats disease. Currently in this country, dietary supplements cannot be deemed as therapeutic. So the FDA does not support the notion that dietary supplements treat or prevent disease. And there are many diseases that are caused from nutrient deficiencies, and dietary supplements do help to replete nutrient deficiencies. So in fact, what the FDA states and what the FDA mandates for dietary supplements is it does protect the public in some ways, but it also harms the public because, again, it's incomplete information. Same thing with vaccines. Yes, vaccines have been shown, although research is always very strange with vaccine because generally the testing population comes after the vaccine has been mandated. So that was the same with Gardasil. I mean, they tested it on for young girls to prevent HPV. They tested it on middle-aged men, and that was basically what got approved. And then they introduced it to the population of young women. Now, these things involve ethics, and it can become very difficult to test on young people, to test on pregnant people. So sometimes the population is different. However, it's the information that gets distributed to the public, which is inaccurate, which is one-sided, which is funded on behalf of the makers of the medication themselves, and that other opinions on the matter are silenced. So in the case of vaccines, yes, they are safe for most people. Yes, they they may work to prevent disease, although maybe also herd immunity happens at the same time that vaccines are, working. So there's always that time factor. However, there is the committee, on what's it called? The Health Resources and Services Administration does publish compensation awards for how many people have been compensated by the government and by pharmaceutical companies as a result of vaccine injury. And so vaccine injury is real, and it's something that people should be able to express that they are concerned about, and they should be able to express that they have been either injured or fear being injured by vaccines. So up to this point, between 2006 through 2022 only, and this does not include the COVID vaccine, and this does not include the Gardasil vaccine, there have been a total of 5 billion doses, over 5 billion doses of vaccines distributed in the US, and compensation for 9,000 individuals, 9,000 cases. The amount that has been given out has been in the range of $5 billion. And so these are very real, somebody has to really mount a case. And oftentimes, what if vaccine injury happens a lot later than anticipated, and illness becomes, of an unknown variety. So you don't know what causes the illness. And so this can become very complicated for people to prove that they were actually injured by the vaccine versus it was something genetic versus it was something else at play that made them sick. And so if vaccine injury happens within, 24 hours of the vaccine, okay, yeah, usually it's an allergy or usually there's some kind of rash or pain at the vaccine site. But if it's more systemic injury for people who are sick or at risk of suffering an injury from a vaccine, maybe they don't metabolize the attenuated virus properly, maybe they don't detoxify the metabolites, maybe they're allergic to some of the ingredients in the suspension fluid. So there can be very many reasons for why somebody doesn't tolerate a vaccine. And if they're sick already, and in the case of the COVID vaccine, sick people with autoimmune disease were still being encouraged to take the COVID vaccine, and then long COVID developed, which does appear to be an autoimmune related, if not an autoimmune disease. And so how we're mandating vaccines is not, and in an emergency situation, people say, oh, well, it's for the benefit of the group over the individual, but the individual does have rights to choose what is safe for them, and they do not have to sacrifice their own health and life for the public. And so these issues need to be discussed. These are not just automatic, this is not an automatic topic. Science asks questions. Science doesn't assume answers. And this is the big problem with the vaccine industry, is that everybody who's pro-vaccine assumes that we know all the answers, and we really don't know all the answers. And it can take a long time for the answers to come out. It doesn't just take 3 months, 1 month, 1 day, even 1 year. Vaccines can impact people for a longer time. And so these are questions with every individual vaccine we need to keep on raising, and vaccines can impact people for generation and for the next generation. So we know that there are inherited diseases, and some factors that go along with inherited disease is not only socialization, but also genetics. And there can be a combination of socialization and genetic inheritance or predisposition to disease that follows a generation to the next. And it could be because of alteration in the RNA or the DNA of the individual. It could be due to epigenetics. And so we can't assume that even just because a vaccine is safe for one generation, that continues to be safe for the next generation. We always have to be looking at our medical interventions, especially our population health medical interventions. And it's much safer, cheaper, and responsible to promote what is known. Most of Americans are not eating a good diet. Most of Americans are not exercising properly. Most doctors are not telling people that food has to do with their disease or has to do with their symptoms. And that, in fact, is just not true. And so these are the reasons why I support Mark Hyman's nomination for RFK Jr., although RFK Jr. is not a doctor. He comes from the most kind of liberal dynasty of American political families. His uncle is behind, nationally covered healthcare, health insurance. And this is what's required by a society in order to have a healthy population. So we all need to have access to the doctor, but we need more than that because we need to know what to do at home as well. And so although RFK Jr. is not a doctor himself and does not necessarily speak eloquently on the subject, he needs advisors. And if he's going to have advisors like Mark Hyman, who's extremely qualified, although not a politician, he's a doctor. People can't be everything. Or even Dr. Oz, who are willing to stand up for the rights of people who don't and cannot tolerate the current convention of medicine, or who do not believe that medications are first in terms of prevention, or that vaccines are first in terms of prevention. Basic nutrition, human rights, jurisprudence, justice, as well as all the things that we know that it is to have a healthy lifestyle, but pertaining to the individual itself. These are what we need in order to become resilient against development of chronic disease. When epidemics come along, of course, decisions need to be made, but there also needs to be flexibility with people, because people should not, again, have to sacrifice their own life for the greater good. So I hope this has helped. Not that anybody really cares why I signed, but 70 Nobel laureates. Fox News says that the reason they signed is because they're Democrats. Well, maybe Democrats within a Republican office is a good thing. Again, does anybody really operate on the spectrum of partisanship anymore? I mean, it doesn't even seem to make any sense for me. It seems that Democrats are Republican. The Democrats would never vote in Bernie Sanders, who's really, the Democrat of the group, if you ask me. RFK would not get nominated as a Democrat, had to run as an independent. The same thing as for Trump, and I have no idea where Trump sits politically. He's certainly, outspoken and a bully, and I didn't vote for him, but I do appreciate the fact that change is needed, and that sometimes surprising change needs to be. That sometimes the right change comes from surprising places. Let's say that, and I have hope, and I have positive thoughts, and you might disagree. But I have hope for this nation, and we shouldn't be under the pharmacy and agricultural lobby as it's been for the past 50 years, and going back further, Rockefeller, if you want to say that politicians don't belong in healthcare, well, J.D. Rockefeller is the one that established the method of medicine that we teach in medical schools, and was the one responsible for sending his method. The Flexner Report was the one that was responsible for sending holistic doctors to jail, not, calling them quacks. And so that doesn't really suit the national or even the global atmosphere. I think people want to choose and want to integrate their healthcare system and want to have the flexibility to do what they need to do for their own self and family, and also follow the doctor's guidelines, and not to be made to feel like they have to do one thing over another, and they have to choose something that's potentially dangerous for themselves in order to be part of society, to be able to go to school, to be able to be educated, to be able to go to a restaurant. So I was living in New York at the time of the, COVID vaccine mandate, and I eventually did get vaccinated. The reason I got vaccinated was because my licensing board was threatening, even if we were working virtually, which I was, was threatening that, we could get delicensed if we didn't get vaccinated. And so I felt like getting vaccinated, sacrificing my own potential health for the work that I love to do is more important, because that's how I can help more people. Whereas by that time, COVID numbers were falling. I mean, we had been quarantining for a long time, and the vaccine, I was working for an autoimmune startup at the time, Mimey, who were doing amazing work with autoimmune patients. And we had to deal a lot with questions. I mean, I was head of coaching, head of the curriculum for that company. And we were seeing a lot of long COVID. And we went into a study, decided to work with Mount Sinai on and pitched the idea that long COVID really appears to be an autoimmune type illness. And now we're seeing much more research on that, and other people in the world were thinking the same thoughts as well, and that people were relapsing when they got their vaccine, even people without autoimmune, but people with like pre-autoimmune, people with chronic pain, people with joint pain, people with fevers. The regular public health, advisement to avoid getting vaccinated when you're sick seemed to fall from the wayside, and we were kind of recklessly vaccinating people, again, before the vaccine had been properly studied. And we get it, it's an international pandemic. People do have to sacrifice themselves, but people also do have the right to choose their own medicine, and people do have the right to preserve their own health. So I look forward to reform in healthcare. I look forward to things out of the hands of the global giants, big pharma, big food, and that people will start to think critically as to what they're engaging in and what kind of healthcare they're consuming, and that the winds of change follow what the people's opinion is already, and that we should have integrative medicine, and that medicine should not be dictated by the pharmaceutical industries. And if JFK Jr. is the person to get us there, which I don't see why he's not, in all honesty, he'll have to rely on the advice of doctors. And if he's relying on the advice of Dr. Mark Hyman, who's one of the founders of the School of Integrative Medicine, is a trained medical doctor, what else can I say about him? Does have his master's of public health, is a published researcher, is a respected speaker, author, an incredibly smart man. Is there money? Is there corruption? Always in politics, always the case. But that's on both sides. That's on every side. So we can't say that it's due to corruption that these sides are merging. People actually have the need to change, and their interests are greater than themselves. And I think that we should trust that their interests are greater than their own self and the power that they can acquire from this involvement. So thanks so much for listening today, and I'll see you around. Please subscribe to my channel. I have a AI avatar. If you've watched any of my videos before, I did try for a couple of months to put out AI avatar videos, which I really enjoy doing. It's so fun to kind of create a script and then have my AI avatar, recite the script. And it did allow me to grow my channel this far to 200. I said I wouldn't go live really until I had 500 subscribers, but I think I'm getting more clear on, what I want to offer. I have a lot to offer. I have a lot of experience in healthcare. I've worked in a lot of settings, and you can also check me out. I do have a membership program, including a free tier at my website, drmillie.com. That's drmillie.com. You can join for free. My message is that it's all connected. Mind, body, spirit, it's all connected. Through epigenetics, through the thoughts that we think, through the environment that we put ourselves in, both that we put our full body in, as well as every single one of our cells is in a specific environment. And these thoughts are controlled by our level of negativity, our level of distrust, our level of stress, our level of unwillingness, our level of resistance. And so I'm here to help people merge the importance of their thoughts, the importance of their spirituality with the importance of food, holistic medicine, exercise on their body. And so I hope you'll join me there. I have a Thrive tier, which is the highest tier at this point, where you can join me and then get personal consultations from me, as well as meal plans. The tier below that is the Root tier. The Root tier allows you to play around with meal plans and also join me for a group coaching call every month. And if you're in the Root tier, which is kind of the base tier at which people pay to receive courses that I provide on gut health, immunity, eating, nutrition, also meditations, and handouts, helpful handouts and PDFs. So that's the Root tier. And then the free tier, well, you get access to things I've created in the past, all my recipes, my Eating for Meaning workbook, my Eating for Meaning guide to detox, my Eating for Meaning 8-session course, which teaches you to eat according to nutrition, adventure, mindfulness, and epigenetics. So I have a lot of amazing value over there. Please do go to drmillie.com and check out my Body Soul Connect, because it's all connected, guys. It's all connected.